You're not going to be successful unless you start understanding the numbers.
Louise Brogan, the owner of a marketing agency which focus on video and content marketing for B2B brands.
On your thumbnail, for example, the basic thing is go to YouTube, type a word in search for whatever you do. Look at all the thumbnails that appear below. That's the one that jumps out at everybody else too.
Who should be using LinkedIn and why should we be there?
If you have a business with products or services that people need to pay for, LinkedIn is the social media platform where people have more money.
Bollocks. That's where I'm going wrong.
And this is the lovely part about LinkedIn. Posting twice a week puts you in the top of the class.
The level of AI you're learning about. And I just wondered if you could just give us maybe a handful of go-to every business owner needs to know about that they probably don't.
So you go to it and you say...
Absolutely incredible. This has been one of the most practical, actionable, valuable conversations I've ever had on this podcast. Louise, welcome to the Success School podcast. Super excited to dive in today. There's many things that you can help us with. I know you're a LinkedIn expert, you're a podcaster, you're a YouTuber, you're an author. There's all these amazing things that you've achieved and now help other people with. And I just want to go straight in with just a little bit of context and understanding of you, really, in terms of being a YouTuber with over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. These kind of things are like, it's what the cool kids want to do at school right now. It's like what all the 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds are, I want to be a YouTuber. And it's like, you've bloody done it. So I would just love to hear a little bit of context behind that as, what was the catalyst that really started you on that journey of YouTube and LinkedIn and so on?
Okay. So hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Matt. I'm really looking forward to this. So my name is Louise Brogan. I run a LinkedIn marketing agency. So we do training workshops and we do LinkedIn content for our clients across the UK, Europe and the US. I have been in business for 10 years now. So I used to be an IT project manager and my background is software engineering. So I've got a bit of a techie brain. And why I became an entrepreneur was really to do with family, having 3 small kids and wanting to be able to pick them up from primary school whenever they were little and not having the flexibility of doing that with the job that I had and balancing my job and my ambition and my family. So I thought, like a lot of women do, well, I'm just going to create something myself then. And so it's been a lot of moves along the way. Like people talk about entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster, and it's absolutely true. YouTube is so fascinating to me. So I became a YouTuber during the pandemic, and I call myself an accidental YouTuber. So
love it.
What
I just said there about how everybody wants to be a YouTuber, and it's like Louise just accidentally did it.
Accidentally became one. So
Great.
how it happened, genuinely how it happened was, I have a small team and we work with clients on a retainer basis. So the maximum number of clients we could really ever have in a year is about 20. But because I totally niched into LinkedIn and therefore started sharing content on LinkedIn and other platforms about how to use LinkedIn for business, I got a lot of people making inquiries about me helping them, and I just couldn't really manage it all. And I would get people who had just left their career and were starting their business, so they didn't have the money to pay for our services as well, never mind being able to service all of these people. So what I started doing was creating videos to answer the frequently asked questions. And I was putting them on LinkedIn. And during the pandemic, so in March 2020, I ended up in a little mastermind of 5 people, 2 of whom are YouTubers. Their whole business is around video marketing on YouTube. And they said to me, Louise, you should really do something with YouTube. And I was like, oh, okay. At this stage, whenever the schools closed and the kids were home, my kids are all teenagers now. So I had 3 teenagers at home, all sitting doing their schoolwork and laptops around the house. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself? Like, I can't leave the house except for an hour a day because of Borison is one walk a day thing. So I thought, well, I might as well have a look at this YouTube thing. So I started putting my videos on there, and it was very slow growth. But I love figuring out tech and technology. So it became really fun for me to figure out, well, how does YouTube work? How do you do this? How do you edit a video? How do you make a thumbnail? How do you get more people to watch these things? Like I love learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So I was like, right, let's find out how this actually works. So fast forward to last spring, I was speaking at a YouTube focused conference in Birmingham, which made me laugh because I was like, I'm not really a YouTuber. I've got like at that stage I had 10,000 subscribers. And I thought, like, who am I to tell anybody else how to use YouTube? And I still genuinely still think that. Um, but at that conference, I listened to all the other talks as much as I could, and I picked up things and I went home and I started applying them to my YouTube channel. And fast forward to November, I hit my 100,000 subscribers, and it was just insane.
What
Not
would you say were
insane.
the key things? If you was to give us
Yeah.
some of the key things you took away that day so
Yeah.
that we can steal them off you and do exactly what you
Oh,
did.
absolutely. So one of the things I do on YouTube is I don't waffle. I don't start saying, "Hi, my name's Louise, and I want to talk to you today about LinkedIn." Blah blah blah. So if you type into Google, "How do you update my LinkedIn headline?" and you find my video, as soon as you click on my video, I'll start saying, "To update your LinkedIn headline, da 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 da." I just get straight into it. So people don't click off my video thinking, oh, she's going to waffle for 3 minutes before she actually tells us how to do this. So that was a major thing. The second big thing was creating thumbnails that people click on. Because when someone looks at the search results on YouTube or on Google, because my videos start to show up on Google as well, um, they literally pick the one that they like the look of. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're saying. If your thumbnail isn't good enough, no one's clicking on your video to watch it. So that was really, really, really key. And
Was there any
then,
tips around that with the thumbnail? Like, what are the do's
yeah.
and don'ts with that?
Oh, yeah. So I did a little workshop a couple of months ago on how to use YouTube. I said on it, like, you're all here to learn from me, but I'm not really a YouTube expert. And they all laugh and go, well, we kind of think you are. So there are little tips that I have. So for on your thumbnail, for example, at least a third of the thumbnail should be your face. So not your body from the waist up. Definitely not. It's got to be your face to head and shoulders. And then I learned to put a little white outline around you, which you can do on Canva, with a tool called Glow, I think it's called. Um, and then I do have a couple of words on all of my thumbnails. The big YouTubers would say don't use any words. But with business, my videos are for business. So it's different to somebody saying, hey, we're going to give away $1 million, or how many ice creams can I eat in 10 minutes? Those things, I guess, pictures work. But if you're doing something on, a LinkedIn profile or how to use Canva, you kind of need the icon on the video. And Matt, there's a story here why none of my video thumbnails have the word LinkedIn on them, which we can go into when we're finished talking about how to build YouTube. But yeah, thumbnails. Look, the basic thing is go to YouTube, type a word in search for whatever you do. So if you are a personal trainer, and maybe you're helping women with weight loss over 40 or something. So you go to YouTube and you type in female personal trainer, weight loss over 40. Look at all the thumbnails that appear below. Which one jumps out at you? That's the one that jumps out at everybody else too. So that's the work that you need to do. Go and look at what resonates with you, and that's what people are going to be clicking on. So people who are in your space, who are getting lots and lots of views on their content. Now, not famous people, because that's different, because they're getting
Yeah.
clicked on because they're famous.
That's such a great point. People miss that and they go, like, for example, in our space of general business and these kind of podcasts talk about success, people look at like Stephen Bartlett or Lewis
Yeah.
Howes or whatever, but it's very different because everybody knows him. It's the guy off the TV, right? Or he's
Yes.
got Simon Cowell on his show. Everybody knows Simon Cowell.
Yes, exactly. So go for people who are in the middle, if that makes sense, in
Yeah.
the middle. So they're getting views, you can see that they're growing, but they are not famous, even in your space. So they don't have to be Peter Jones or Stephen Bartlett. They can be someone who everybody in your industry knows. So you're not looking at those people either. You're
Mm,
looking at the
mm.
people in the middle on the up, and that's the ones that you should be thinking. And also, look at their channel. So I don't know if you guys all have YouTube channels, but if you look at someone's channel and you click on videos, then you can filter the videos by the most popular videos.
Yep.
And that's the topics that people are most interested in. So if you have a channel about LinkedIn, my absolute runaway number one video is how to upload your resume to LinkedIn. It's got like 150,000 views. So if I was doing a different LinkedIn channel, I think I'd be looking at mine going, oh, look, all these videos that got over 100,000 views, those are the ones we should be creating because that's obviously what people are trying to find the answer to.
That is golden. I mean, already like everybody just wants to leave the call and crack on. You've given us so much. That was
That's what
amazing.
I'm like.
So some really clear stuff. So no waffle, straight to the point, get the thumbnail right, do a little bit of research basically there, market research on who are the people already doing this really, really well, what are
Yes.
their best performing content, and then put your own version of that out, I guess.
Yes, and absolutely measure your analytics on everything. So I am, and if you're like, "Ooh, Louise, I don't like numbers," then just you're not going to be successful unless you start understanding the numbers. So just get to like numbers.
What about consistency and timing? Is there anything around that? Like, for example, if someone's been building quite consistent, but then they have a few weeks off, is that going to affect it? Is it good to have a break? What would you say on those things?
So now I'm actually going through this at the minute. It's so funny. So once I got to my 100,000, Matt, I was like, "Ooh, happy days! Got my silver play button. Right, I'll just set that aside now and go off and do
Go live on a yacht.
go to my agency." And I've just been over in America speaking at a conference in San Diego. And so I was speaking about LinkedIn, but I was there for the YouTube talks. Oh my goodness. Learned such valuable stuff over there and came back fired up about really focusing on this channel. Like I want to triple it in size at least.
Wow.
So what I'm going
That's
to
the
do,
power of going to these kind of events, isn't it? You just
oh
go, I want to do everything right now.
yeah, and it's really hard.
Yeah, yeah.
Gary says he was in San Diego too. So you do have to be consistent, and I have not. So the things I've done wrong on my channel is I have not been consistent. So going forward, I'm going to do 2 videos a week. The other thing I came away from San Diego was the amazing way we can use AI in our businesses that 99% of small business owners and entrepreneurs are not touching the sides of yet. So my goal is to create video content to help people figure out how to use these AI tools. And we are not talking about using ChatGPT to write posts for you. That is like that's like P1 in school. We are talking about let's be Form 4 or year 10. I don't know what years they call them these days. Our school still does forms.
Yeah. But
So
basically, that's it for Billy Basics, the Chat GPT stuff. We're talking about
yeah,
there's so many more levels
but
of
most
AI.
people, Matt, aren't even doing that.
No. Or if they are, they're doing it really badly and everybody
Yeah,
can
so
see
what?
it's Chat GPT.
Yeah, so today I put out my first of these AI tools. It's called Napkin, and it's like it made images for my LinkedIn posts literally within about 10 seconds.
Wow.
And it's very much using AI as a tool, not so you're not saying to the AI, can you do this for me? I gave it my blog post and selected parts of my blog and said, can you create an image using this content? And then, so anyways, that's the videos out today. So being consistent, back to YouTube, being consistent in the day and the time that the videos go out will help because people then get used to it. Like your podcast will go out on a certain day and
Yeah.
we are creatures of habit. We like to schedule our lives around this stuff. So I will know for years I listened to a podcast that got released on a Thursday morning at about 8 a.m. So I always looked forward to Thursday mornings, 8 o'clock, walking the dog. I was listening to this podcast. and I never missed an episode. And that's, you don't get that if you're not sticking to consistency and timing.
This is great. I mean, there's just so much I want to ask you, so I'm going to probably talk much quicker now. But the reason originally we thought it'd be brilliant to bring you on is, as you are obviously a LinkedIn expert, that's one of the main things you help people with. And
Yes.
I've always said, as somebody who helps online business owners, I've always said it's about finding the social media platforms for you when it comes to your marketing that
Mm,
A, your target audience are there, and B, you actually enjoy that platform. And I think there has to be kind of a bit of both. I
mhm.
don't believe you sometimes see people like your Gary Vaynerchuk, who I love in many ways what he says, but he'll sometimes say you need to be on every platform all day, every day, 70 posts a day. And it's just like, yeah, in an ideal world, which none of us live in, like we've got families, we've got other commitments. So I've always been a big believer in like have a couple of platforms maximum that you absolutely double down on. And
Yes.
for me, LinkedIn just never spoke to me. I never enjoyed it when I gave it a little bit of a dabble. And then over the years, I keep hearing these people saying there's so much opportunity on LinkedIn. It's one of the main platforms business owners should be on. So I just want to ask in your opinion, as somebody who genuinely knows nothing, and that's why you're here today, because I just want to soak up everything from you. Somebody who knows absolutely nothing, who should be using LinkedIn and why should we be there?
Okay. This is really a really simple way to look at this. If you have a business with products or services that people need to pay for, LinkedIn is the social media platform where people have more money.
Bollocks. That's where I'm going wrong.
It is as simple as that,
Wow.
honestly.
Okay.
So
Okay, so
here,
that's kind of got everybody listening going, I need to be on LinkedIn like 10 years ago, or if you're like me, that's what I'm thinking. So, give us the hacks. Let's take your let's make it specific. Let's take your example there. I think you said, was it if you were a female personal trainer that helps women in their 40s, let's say that's your target
yes.
audience, that's your job. Let's speak to her right now, that PT.
Okay.
She's
Okay.
just heard this right now and gone, right, I need to dominate LinkedIn because that's where people have the money. What
Yeah.
are the go-to hacks? What specifically does she need to do right away on LinkedIn?
So, I mean, that is a really simple way to look at it. But the other, I 100% agree with you, Matt. If you don't like LinkedIn, it's not the platform for you, all right? So on LinkedIn, the kind of the background to this is, and we will get to our example of this personal trainer.
Don't let her down. Don't let her
Won't
down.
let her down. So before the pandemic, there's about 350 million people had LinkedIn accounts. In the pandemic, the corporate world had to retreat to their homes, and people were working out of their homes, including all the people who network and go to events and go to sales and go out on sales calls. They still had to generate leads and sales for business. And so their company said to them, well, you've got to go where the clients are, and the clients are on LinkedIn. So people started driving their teams to LinkedIn. LinkedIn now has 1 billion account members. That's from about 350 in 2019. So that shows a gigantic growth. What also happened was 99% of people on LinkedIn never post anything at all. If you think, I don't know if anyone here works in an office job, but if you think of someone who works in an office job, they just don't think about posting on LinkedIn. They say, oh, what will my colleagues think? That's not my job. I'm not in sales. But they have LinkedIn accounts. Why would someone go to a social media platform? Because they find stuff on there that is interesting to them. So we all like to scroll through social media, and people who have LinkedIn accounts scroll through LinkedIn social media, which is where the LinkedIn creators come in. So people like me who create short videos, helpful tips, and pieces of advice, that's what's coming up in the news feed that people are actually interested in, because we don't actually go there to read corporate posts that are trying to sell us stuff. We go there to be social with our networks. And that is where the opportunity for us as entrepreneurs comes in, because if you can go there and create content that people find interesting, what happens is they will start to follow you. They will go and look at your LinkedIn profile. And if you set it up correctly, they will read your profile. They'll see who it is you work with, how you work with those people. They will send you a connection request. If you're showing up and consistently posting, and this is the lovely part about LinkedIn, posting twice a week puts you in the top of the class. So it's not like every day. You don't have to create videos, you don't have to create reels, all this kind of stuff. literally posting twice a week, starting conversations with your network gets you huge visibility on LinkedIn.
So to be
Um,
clear, then, would that be a written post with a picture, which is an engaging topic that people have an opinion on and want to respond
yeah,
to?
doesn't even need a picture, Matt.
Bloody hell.
Honestly, you can just literally write a post that starts a conversation.
Twice a week.
Yeah. So after today, you guys could go on LinkedIn and say, just attended a workshop with Matt Hall and Louise Brogan about LinkedIn. Louise says that all we need to do on LinkedIn is write a post to start a conversation. What do you think? And the key there is, I have said, I've introduced what we're talking about. You're talking about this workshop you attended. Then you're saying, here's what the key message is. And then the absolute golden nugget here is you ask a question. What do you think? Because you could say, let's do a screenshot of everybody on here today, put it on LinkedIn and say, what's at this workshop today with Matt Hall? Learn stuff about LinkedIn. It was really fun. You're not asking anybody questions. They've got no answer, no reason to respond to you.
Yeah, you're
If
just
you ask
making it
them,
about you rather than about them and
but
their thoughts.
not even that, you're trying to start a
Yeah,
conversation. And if you're having a conversation, that involves asking questions.
of course. Okay.
So,
You said there about you need to set up your profile correctly. Is there any
yes.
tips around that?
Yes. So if you are in a career and you are going up the career ladder, this is very different advice to if you are using LinkedIn as an entrepreneur to get business leads and sales. So in the leads and sales piece, you want to write a headline. So that's where it says Louise Brogan, and underneath it'll say like B2B marketing for LinkedIn video. I can't remember exactly what it says. But your headline should tell me what it is you do and who you do it for. And then when you go down to someone's profile, and Matt, I'm going to give you a link to a little workshop that I've done that people can go and have a look at. It's about £50
Amazing.
and it goes through the whole thing. But then on your about section, it's not about you. It's about how you can help the person who's reading it. All right. This is really key. It is not, my name is Matt Hall. I run Success School. I do this, I do that. It's like,
Sounds like you've read my profile. I'm not going to lie.
what I want to know is, okay, Matt, I like that post that you did, or I like that comment that you wrote on Louise's post. So I've come over here to read your profile to see what exactly is Success School, but all you're doing is talking about yourself. I want to know how you can help me. So your about section should tell the person how you can help them. And you all can go and have a look at my profile and see what way I've done this. Okay. I'm quite happy for you to look at the formatting that I've done on that and just go, right, okay, let's take that and but make it about you, obviously, and do it in that style. So your profile is your foundation of everything you do on LinkedIn. When you connect with people, when you comment on people's stuff, what we're trying to do is get people to visit your profile to see what is it you do and how can you help them. And on that, I just did a video on Monday about whether you should invest in LinkedIn Premium or not. If you've just started on LinkedIn, don't go down the premium route. But once you are on there and you're like, oh, I think Louise has got something to this, I think I could get business here. You can try LinkedIn Premium free for a month. And with that, you get a clickable link at the top of every post that you do. And mine says book an appointment. So when you see my post on LinkedIn, under my name, my headline, it says book an appointment, and people click on that and it takes them to my inquiry form. I mean, you don't get that on other social media platforms.
So let's call her Sarah, the
Oh yes, our
PT.
PT. Sorry, apologies, trainer,
She's
trainer
on
friend.
there. So no, but she's listening, and she's now got some great advice there about setting up her profile, which is
Hmm.
great. She now knows she needs to post twice a week, and they need to be engaging, question-led posts.
Yes.
What about finding her ideal target? What about outreach? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So did we call her Sarah? Did you say?
We'll go with Sarah. You can call
Yeah.
her whatever. She's not
Yes.
real. She's not actually
Well, she
real.
probably is real. I bet you there's a trainer called Sarah listening to this
It will
podcast
be,
right now.
yeah. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Hiya, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. So this brings us back to why LinkedIn. So if you think of all the women over 40 who are on social media, the ones on LinkedIn are more likely And there's statistics to back this up. I think the average LinkedIn user in the US earns over $60,000. So they have more expendable income. And if you are a personal trainer and you want to help women over 40, it's easier to sell to someone who is earning a higher income level. It's that simple. So what you want to do, what I recommend that you do is create content that helps Sarah's ideal client. So Sarah's target audience is Bethany, who is 44, pretty stressed. She's got two kids in school. She never has time for herself. She's just like, who can do yoga and Pilates and even go for a walk? I'm too busy trying to manage my job, my house, and, not lose my sanity. So Sarah creates content that helps Bethany, here are three ways to fit in a little bit of me time during your working week. Here are tips about doing, I don't know, something in the morning when the kettle's boiling. You could do these stretches during the morning. But if you create content that helps someone, that is how people then start to follow you because you are helping them. So that's the content you want to do. And people will then start to reach out to Sarah to say, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a few months. I really love what you said. If you give a case study of someone you've worked with, even better. Yeah, all the things you're saying, it's exactly how I feel. I'd love to hear more about how you work with people. You do want to build your network, but don't just build a network of anybody. I talk about building a network of value. So people who are interested in what you're talking about, they're sharing stuff that you find interesting because we want to go to these platforms and actually enjoy being on them. So if you go to LinkedIn, you're like, God, my feed is so boring. Start unfollowing the boring stuff and start connecting with people who you're interested in. And that does involve spending a little bit of time looking around and seeing, well, there's Matt's post about Success School, and there's some content that he shared, and people have written underneath that, well, who are those people? Are those my people? So I'm looking at Natalie and Yvonne here. So Natalie and Yvonne post something on LinkedIn, or I post something on LinkedIn, and Natalie leaves a really interesting comment underneath it. Then Yvonne is also following me, and she sees Natalie's comment, and then she sees Natalie's headline. She goes, "Oh, it's quite interesting. I think I'll go and connect with Natalie." And that's how you find people. So I talk about like looking at LinkedIn like it's an in-person conference. Okay. So the people who are putting videos on and who are writing the big posts are the speakers on stage. The rest of us are in the audience, and the audience is the people who are making the comments. So when you go to an actual real life conference and you go into a room and Amy Porterfield's talking on stage, or Gary Vaynerchuk, or whoever, and you're sitting next to somebody and they say something on stage, and you turn to the person next to you and say, God, that was really interesting, wasn't it? What did you think about that? Do you think you'd implement that idea? That is you finding people in the comments on LinkedIn. Because in real life, what would you do with that person? If you had a conversation, you'd probably swap business cards, which is the equivalent of you connecting on LinkedIn. And that is how you build up a network of people that you're interested in. Likewise, if you sit beside somebody and they say something, you're like, oh my God, I do not agree with that at all. Then you don't connect with them. You don't, arrange to meet them for coffee in 2 weeks' time. You stay away from them. And those are the people you want to get away from on LinkedIn. So hopefully that analogy makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And it's such an obvious thing that I think most people don't think to do. I don't use LinkedIn, but it's the same kind of principle I say for Instagram, for Facebook, is go in the comment sections of the people who are already speaking to your ideal client.
Yeah.
Like that, they're there. And they're not just there, they're already engaging. They're already engaged in that kind of comment. So they're your people that you want to build conversations with. That said, for us to really win on LinkedIn, there's something you've sort of touched upon that I think I really want to highlight and sort of ask you a question around, which is how important is having a clear target audience and a niche for you to really make money out of LinkedIn? Because with Sarah, we've got quite a specific demographic.
Yes.
If we just had a broad, I help anybody get into shape, would it be as successful? Or
No.
is this a big part of the success, is being clear and specific?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting conversation I had in San Diego and this is about my YouTube channel. So my niche is absolutely helping B2B with LinkedIn, right? However, there is a circle of people around that who are people who are similar to those people. And those are the people who are going to, I'm creating content for around AI tools for small business. So think about the networks that sit around your ideal client as well. Because if we go back to our LinkedIn analogy about in real life, if you go to a networking coffee morning and you meet somebody there, so we meet Bethany, and Bethany said, you're talking to Bethany and you're saying something about, oh, I'm just finding things a bit tough at the minute. It's I'm just knackered all the time. Bethany then says, oh, well, there's this woman on LinkedIn that I follow called Sarah. I think that's what she helps people with. You should go and check her out. And that is how I mean, social media did not invent word of mouth. Word of mouth has been going on since I've been alive. It just makes it much easier. So connecting, building a network of people who are your ideal clients, but also people who are connected to your ideal clients. That makes sense. So if you want to work with women over 40 who want to get into health and fitness, who else do they follow? So you might niche even further. You could say, well, I want to work with women who are in finance, who are over 40, who are interested in health and fitness. Well, women in finance, who are they following on LinkedIn? Follow those people as well. And that's where you'll start to find them. But it's like everything, Matt, once you get into this stuff, and you're doing it for a little while, you find your own way with it and you understand, oh, these are the people I should be connecting with, these people I should be following with, because I know my target audience are also following these people. And yeah, and just keeping at it.
So I want to be mindful of time because we are going to do some Q&A with the members, which I'm really excited about as well. But there's a couple of things that I need to ask you about before we go into the last couple of questions. So you've had a picture with a king. Could you could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So when Charles was crowded by my close-up one. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when Charles was had his coronation, he did a series of receptions at Buckingham Palace, and he did about six, I think. And I got an email. I got an email one day from somebody saying that they were the master of the households and that they wanted to know would I be interested in coming to a reception for small businesses at Buckingham Palace. And I'm like, what is this spam or scam? What is this? Is a new type of scam. But there was a name on it. So I went to a friend of mine who lives in London and who had done some work with a project to do with the royal family. And I said to her, do you know this guy? And is this a real thing? And she said, absolutely, that's a real thing, Louise. Absolutely. So I replied anyway, and I got invited to this reception. And as I'm a fact finder, I looked it up in advance, and there was about 400 people were invited to these things. So I was like, this is amazing. And one of my hats is I'm a small business champion for the UK with Small Business Britain, something I've been doing for 6 or 7 years. So I do like webinars for them and stuff. Anyway, so I head off to London, to Buckingham Palace, got a new dress and everything. It was very exciting. Get inside Buckingham Palace, which is an experience of all of its own, and go upstairs. And they had little name tags for everybody. And I was like, they couldn't find mine. And everybody had these little blue tickets. And I had a pink ticket. And I was like, why is my ticket pink and everyone else's is blue? And this lady comes over and says, oh, you have to come with me. And I was like, okay. And I honestly thought, oh my God, this is a mistake. I knew it was too good to be true. It was a total mistake. Anyway, they took me into this little room and there's like 10 little name badges on this table. I'm going, what's going on? And she says, I want you, you've been selected ahead of the rest of the room to meet the king in a lineup. I was like, what? So it was me and Mary Portas, Peter Jones from Dragon's Den, the Minister for the Economy from Northern Ireland, Holly Tucker, who owns Not on the High Street, and little me in this lineup. I was like, this is insane. So it was amazing. And he was really lovely. And I met him and I met Prince Edward and I met two dukes who are his cousins. and they just couldn't have been nicer. And I don't remember anything that I said, except so I did say I'm from Northern Ireland, you know.
Of course. Of course
You've
you look
always
you
got
have
to
to say
fly the
that.
flag for your own part of the world.
You do.
Um, and then afterwards, they went over really fast, and then they took us back into the big stateroom, and then we were there for 2 hours with everybody else, just mingling, and they were pouring magnums of champagne, which is like the double bottle, which I've never seen before in my life, and canapes, and it was phenomenal. It's absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal. I
wow.
think it's been the highlight of my job so far.
That's
So
incredible. What an amazing experience to
yeah,
get, and
it
just
was.
shows the power of this, just following your passions, working hard, being consistent, and
Yeah.
the opportunities you'd never even think about that
Never in a
start to
million
come to you.
years, never in a million years thought I'd meet the king. So there you are.
A couple of things I have to ask before we finish. You mentioned earlier when you were talking about the YouTube thumbnails, you said you'll never put LinkedIn on there. And I wanted to go
Yes.
back on what was that? What was the reason behind that?
So, I wrote a book, which I think you guys know about, called Raise Your Visibility on LinkedIn. And because I have the name LinkedIn on the cover of the book, a friend messaged me and said, have you got trademark approval, Louise, to have the name on the cover? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So she said, here's the email. You have got to get approval from LinkedIn to use their name on the cover of your book. So I'm like, okay, no problem. So I emailed this trademark request. It's called trademark request at LinkedIn. And she said, I just need to check a few things. I'm like, right, okay. So this began 2 months of torture is not the right word because people are actually tortured in the world, but it was very unpleasant. I had to remove the word LinkedIn from all of my products and services. I had to remove all the images on my website that had the LinkedIn logo on them, the LinkedIn logo and the in logo. And this took forever. And then she came back and she said, I've just had a look at your YouTube channel and you have to remove the trademark from all of your videos. And I'm like, I have 300 videos on there. And she said, well, we will not approve this until you do that. And I did say, well, can I change the name of the book? And she said, doesn't matter. You still need to remove the logo from all. So there is no LinkedIn logo on any of my content. It took me forever to do the thumbnails again. It was absolutely brutal. And the most frustrating thing about the whole thing is that if you go to YouTube, you will see literally millions of videos with the LinkedIn logo on the thumbnail. And I did point this out to her, and she did not care. So yeah, that's why there are no LinkedIn logos anywhere on my content.
And it's just things like that so many of us would never even consider. You just think, I'm just building this
Oh,
brand, talking about the
absolutely
thing that I
brutal.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brutal.
That and it's so good to bring that awareness, just to say
Mm.
to everybody listening, just be mindful of things like that, especially if you are early on in your journey, so that you don't get to a point where you've written the whole book, you've got a big YouTube following, 300 videos, and now you've got to start going back
Yeah.
and going through what you went through. So I think that's, a really good thing just to be aware of that you've shared with us there. You also
Mm.
spoke about the level of AI you're learning about. And I just
Yeah.
wondered if you could just give us maybe a handful of go-to, whether it be apps or tools or whatever, that you think every business owner needs to know about that they probably don't.
Okay, so I shared this with a friend yesterday. It's not that we don't need to know all of the apps. We need to know how to use the ones that we are using really effectively. So everybody heard of ChatGPT. What you can do with that piece of work is unreal when you know what to ask it. So I'll give you an example. And this is what I shared with my friend. So I said to her, I think you should use ChatGPT as your business strategist. So I have set it up as my board of directors.
Wow.
So on the paid version of Chat, you've got things called projects. And you don't need to do this, but if you want to keep going back to it for the same usage, then it's probably better to have paid. So you go to it and you say, I want you to act as my business development manager or my business strategist. So you tell it the role that it has. Then you give it the context. So you say, here's what my business does. Here's the services that we offer. here's my target audience. This is what we are currently doing. You tell it not to ask you any questions yet. Just say, I'm going to give you a role and a context. Then I'm going to ask you to ask me questions. And then I want you to start work. Is that okay? And it says yes. So then you give it all these things. Because what you don't want is it to start churning out stuff. So give it the context and give it as much context as you possibly can. So you say, this is my monthly revenue. This is what I want to get to, blah, blah, blah. And then you say, now ask me some clarifying questions, but limit it. So say, ask me up to 10, but ask me them one at a time. So don't say, because otherwise I'll just give you all of the questions. So ask me one at a time. So it'll ask you the first question and you respond. So you are going back and forwards with it and it's getting to understand what you're talking about more. And then you say the question that you actually want the answer to. So it might be, how can I generate more leads in the next 3 months? Or which area of my business should I be focusing on next? Or what I did was, what is the biggest threat to my business currently? And then it comes back with its strategic advice. So that is a so much better use of AI than saying, please write my LinkedIn posts for me.
Absolutely incredible. This has been one of the most practical, actionable, valuable conversations I've ever had on this podcast. So, Louise, just thank you for sharing so much and for literally giving us everything you can, obviously, in the time that we've had together. I just want to ask a few of the general life questions that I ask every guest, irrespective of what they're an expert in. So this is just to get a little bit more of a take on life from your perspective. So the first question is, what is one of the best pieces of life advice you've received and why?
Well, actually, it comes from my dad, who's no longer with us. So when I was about 16 or 17, which is a long time ago now, he said to me, you can go to university or not. You can get married, stay home, have kids. It's whatever you want to do. He says, but know this, you can be whatever you want to be in life.
Oh, amazing.
It's up to you.
And I think that's so refreshing, isn't it? Because so many of us are told, take the safe path,
Yeah.
do the thing that has certainty. And I think many of us need to hear that advice. I think it's such important
Yeah.
advice.
Now, Matt, I am a very cautious person. And when I started my business 10 years ago, but I did not leave my job straight away. I built up my business on the side for 2 years till I had enough to pay to replace 1 year's of a salary before I left.
Mm.
So I knew that I could do it for a year. And then like I didn't spend any of that money. It was my safety net. So I knew I could do the business for a year and see how I got on. But I also knew as an IT project manager that if it didn't work out, it wasn't that hard to get another job in that field and industry, especially in Northern Ireland.
Mm. Absolutely amazing. Okay, let's go to the flip side, which is the opposite question of some of the worst advice that may have been well-meaning, but the worst advice you got and why.
Oh my gosh. Well, I was told once that I should set up a franchise. So I had when I started, I didn't niche to LinkedIn till about 2019, which was also probably the second best piece of advice I ever got. But before that, I'd set up a social media management company, and I was working with companies like local companies like Pilates studios and kebab shops of all types
Wow.
of things. And somebody who had a franchise business said to me, you should turn this into a franchise business. That would have been horrendous for me. So don't listen to somebody who tells you to do exactly what they've done. Um, that is not good coaching, I don't
Mm.
think. Think about what's going to work for you in your life. And yeah, because back then my business was called Social Bee NI, and they're like, you could have Social Bee Birmingham, you could have Social Bee Newcastle. I would have spent my entire life zipping around the UK, managing all my franchisees, and it would have been a disaster. So that was not a good piece of advice, which luckily I did not take.
Okay, the next one's quite a vulnerable question because I feel like when we listen to podcasts like this, we'll often put the guest expert on a bit of a pedestal as they're the person with all the information. And I think it's a really important thing to remember that we're all human, we're all ever evolving, we're all going through different challenges. So if you're happy to share, the next question is, What is one thing right now you are still currently struggling with, and how are you overcoming that challenge and working through it?
Yeah, so I think the business now is very much it's an agency. So which I only became an agency about 3 years ago because it was really just me and a VA before that. And now it's an agency and I'm at the stage where I need to look at the clients that we are working with. And that's challenging because I have a client that I love to work with. Like I love to work. I'm so passionate about women and raising women's visibility. That my book was nearly called Raise Your Visibility on LinkedIn for Women. And then someone says, no, Louise, don't just do it for women, do it for everybody, which is true because I have a lot of men that I work with who also want to raise their visibility on LinkedIn. Um, but I love working with the female solopreneur coach consultant, but I cannot scale this business with that audience. I can scale this business with SMEs, so companies that have 20, 30, 50 employees who are like, yeah, we need to be on LinkedIn, but we haven't got a marketing department and we need to outsource this. So it is trying to stay focused on going after the right type of clients. And then with that, you then have team members. So a coach that I worked with once, and my tip to all of you is best thing you can do for your business is to invest in coaching. Like you're all on this program, people I'm looking at on this call. It's the best thing you can possibly do for your business. It changed my life, like genuinely changed my life. I worked with an American coach for 5 years and just totally transformed everything I was doing in my business. But another coach said to me, the team that got you here will not be the team that gets
Mm,
you there. And that
mm,
is so true. And I am now in a space where the team that I have right now is different to the team I had a year ago, and in the next year, that team I will be bringing in more people to work with me and my team to be able to service that client that we're going after. So always changing.
great thing to be aware of, and to
Mhm.
not sort of try and fight that change and be open
Yeah.
to it and embrace it, I
Yeah.
think is a really key point to take from that. So the mission of this show, Success School, is to help people live happier, healthier, and more fulfilled lives. If you was to leave the listeners today with three pieces of guidance that if they live by these kind of three tips, they're on the right sort of path to be living a happy, healthy, fulfilled life, what would be the three things you'd share?
Okay, this is funny. I'm going to start with the one I'm constantly telling my teenage boys. Make your bed in the morning because you just feel better all day. Make your bed in the morning. No, and seriously, taking time out. So one of my things, and choose what works for you. I love going for a walk and listening to a podcast. So I make sure that I have time for that in my life. I love reading just before I go to bed at night. So if I don't do that, it just kind of upsets the apple cart. So making time for yourself that you're not just working all the time because you would just get burnt out and then you'll hate your business and then you'll end up back in a job, which is nothing wrong with that. That's the other thing. People who go, do you know what? This entrepreneur lifestyle is not for me. It's far too rocky. I'm stressed all the time trying to make more money and figure out how it works. It's easier to go get a job and leave that job at the end of the day and go home and not have to think about it. I mean, that was another thing my dad said to me. So my dad actually passed away before I started my business, and we kind of joke about it that if he hadn't died, I'm not sure I would have gone into entrepreneurship because I had a really good job and he would have encouraged me to stay in that job. So, is that so? Make your bed is genuinely what I suppose I'm saying. Keep yourself organized and tidy, because it just makes life a bit easier. That is number one. Um, and then the third, and make time for yourself, whether it's walking the dog or even just going outside in the sunshine for 10 minutes, or standing up and walking away from your desk to go and get a glass of water. Number two, look after yourself. And number three, keep learning, learning what works, what other people are doing. Follow people that you admire and see how are they doing this? What am I missing something? And don't be blindsided by the internet gurus who post pictures of themselves, lounging around with a glass. There's a whole thing about a year or two ago where people used to put themselves with a glass of wine on LinkedIn on a Friday afternoon. And I'd be like, what are you doing? This is not helping or serving anybody in your network. Um, but don't look at those people and believe what they're saying about themselves. There are a lot of the coach that I worked with knew a lot of people in the online space, and she would say to me, Louise, a lot of these people who you think are running 7 and 8 figure businesses can't even pay their own teams. So don't believe the hype online, and just stick to focusing on yourself and not getting distracted. I think the biggest thing I ever did for myself was think about putting blinkers on. What is my path? Who are my clients? What are their struggles? Don't get distracted by what's going on over here. Set your goals and stay focused to them.
It's a great point as well, just about like a lot of people in this space of business coaching. And there's people who have genuinely done like maybe 7 figures, but it's like over 10 years. And that was just revenue, and they've had overheads that have been 8 figures. You know what I mean? It's like just people will use selective information to
Yeah.
market what they do. And
Or the other thing, Matt, is a lot of the US ones will be trust fund babies.
yeah,
So they don't even need to make a living.
yeah, yeah. And they're the
Come
ones
out
with
of
the pictures.
nowhere, they don't come out of nowhere with a best-selling book unless they've actually put a lot of their own money into it in the first place.
Genuinely one of my favorite interviews that we've done, and in terms of not only are you just a lovely person, but the actual practical stuff we've got from this is game changing, I know, for so many people that listen to this show. So thank you so much. I highly recommend everybody gets your book, checks out your workshops, and first and foremost just go over and check out Louise's LinkedIn, check out her YouTube, and all her resources there. Do you want to just give a shout out, Louise, to exactly where people can follow you and what the handles are and so on?
Yeah, so I think it'd be really nice to connect with you all on LinkedIn. Just go and look for Louise Brogan on LinkedIn. The YouTube channel is called Raise Your Visibility Online, and my website's just louisebrogan.com. So, I mean, anything you need to know about using LinkedIn is available on that YouTube channel.
And you did say you've got like small workshops you'll do for like around
Yeah, I
£50,
got
quite affordable.
yeah, they're £50. They're focused workshops. So they're an hour long, and there's one on how to use YouTube, one on how to plan your content for LinkedIn, and one on how to do your personal profile on LinkedIn. So I'll send those links over to you, Matt. You can share them out.
Absolutely, that's brilliant. Okay, final question before we head over to the members Q&A. Louise, what is your personal definition of success?
Creating a life that you enjoy and that can financially support your goals and dreams.
Louise, thank you so much. That was amazing.